Welcome to Obsessed with Success, starring Russel Morgan.
Hey there, welcome back to Obsessed with Success with Russel Morgan. Russel is the founder and CEO of Morgan Legal Group, one of New York's premier estate planning firms. He's also a legal entrepreneur, a strategist, and mentor. He helps attorneys scale with clarity and confidence. I'm Kevin Rosenquist, and today we're talking about client acquisition, not just waiting on referrals, but building a reliable system that consistently brings in the right clients. Russel, welcome back. Good to see you.
Kevin, great to be here as always. Good to see you.
Yeah, for sure. So relying on referrals are great. First, let's just say that referrals are awesome. We all love referrals, but relying on them can hold a firm back over time. Why is that?
Well, it's like any model. We can't put all of our eggs in one basket. Referral sources are usually in some cases, your best source of your business because it's coming from someone that's endorsing you. But if we're trying to scale and we're trying to grow, relying on referrals is going to likely result in some stagnation. So it's the same thing as any other marketing vehicle. If you're just relying on leads or you're just relying on pay-per-click, it can't be your only means. If tomorrow there's a problem with your referral source, if they go out of business or their work decreases or they start working with someone else, now you're stuck. Now you don't have another means or another medium to drive business to your firm. Same goes if you're relying on marketing or advertising only. If the algorithm changes or the pricing per lead changes or your vendor goes out of business, what happens to your business?
Mm-hmm.
So like any business model or any marketing model rather, we want to diversify. We want to make sure that you're contributing and investing not just money, but time in diversifying your revenue streams and diversifying where your business is coming from. So if you're relying on referrals, I want to make sure that you have multiple referral sources so that if one isn't working, the other ones may work out. By the same token, maybe start a different type of way for you to receive business, a bit of advertising or marketing or your own platform where you can drive business to yourself, whether it's a blog or article writing or a separate avenue that you've created for yourself of resources that you can use to distribute to the public. It could be a book, could be videos, something that is useful and a value add to potential clients and you can also use as a new medium to drive business to your practice or any business that you're involved in.
There's a term that anybody who's ever taken a marketing course, they usually will talk about in the first day of Marketing 101 of spaghetti marketing, throwing everything at the wall and seeing what sticks, and knowing that that's just a bad idea because if you try to be everywhere, then you're nowhere efficiently. How do you figure out which channels are worth investing in, whether it be ads, SEO, content, social media? What is the best way for a firm to figure out what is in their wheelhouse?
It's always going to be a bit of trial and error.
Yeah.
I have plenty of colleagues that, for example, do a ton of social media advertising and it works for them. And I have others that have tried and it doesn't work for them. So it has to be a bit of trial and error just to see what type of stream in driving business works best for you. And look, some business is better than no business. So even if your social media marketing or your pay-per-click or your referral sources are bringing you a bit, it still fills in the gaps when your main revenue streams maybe aren't doing as well. So it's going to be a bit of trial and error, but diversifying and doing it methodically, not, spaghetti method where we just hope that it works, is usually our best bet. Yes, it'll require some trial and error, but the more you do it, the better you'll get. So even if something isn't working for you, it may not because it may not be because you're doing something that doesn't work for your business model. It might be the way that you're presenting yourself. Maybe you need to fine tune some things, change your approach, change your calls to action or your proposals, your pricing, something that isn't clicking with the market. So try something else, apply a different approach, adjust what your proposal is or what your call to action is, and always beta test. Start small, see if the adjustment made a difference. And if you see it's positive, then give it gas. If you see it's not working out, either let it go or make some adjustments to see if we can perfect it a bit. But always diversify. Referrals are amazing. This is someone else that has endorsed you to your clients. Could be another client, it could be a professional that you're working with. But if they go, now your entire business is relying on them sending you work or them referring clients to you. So, best practices, diversify methodically.
What did your marketing look like when you first started, and how did that change as you grew your firm?
It started really small. Our firm started as a one-man operation. So marketing and advertising was a scary place to be because you're spending money to hope that something comes from it. So it was a bit of trial and error. And when I initially started, it may have been one specific source just to see if it worked. And slowly but surely, we started to expand and diversified into other sources, but it was slow. Meaning, if let's say I was adding on a new medium or a new way to drive business, you're not going to put all of your eggs in one basket, spend a whole bunch of money and hope for the best. So it was a little bit at a time. And once you start seeing that progress, you add a little bit of gas because you're getting results. You're seeing your ROI.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually we get to a point where marketing and advertising is driving business, but reputation management is equally important. Presence is equally important. Recognition, by the same token, also equally important. Because what happens? A lot of the times, let's say you're just doing leads or ads or pay per click. People are coming through the door, which is important. But like any business, they're going to vet you. They're going to make sure that if, let's say, they're not starting with you on the same day they see you or the same day they speak to you, most people are going to want to verify you. So they're checking your recognitions, they're checking possible other clients or referrals, other people that you've done business with, your publications, your prior, in our world, your prior cases, the type of work you've done. So it's great, but we want to make sure that your foundation is solid. That once those leads are coming through the door and you're starting to pick up traction and you're getting phone calls and you're seeing that traffic coming through the door, that your ROI actually materializes, that the rest of your presence is visible so that they can verify and vet and feel comfortable that your products and services are at best of class or as great as they can be.
We've talked in previous episodes that you've done a fair amount of media appearances on television and whatnot. How do things like that or speaking opportunities help market your firm, help bring in clients? Do those have a very big impact in your opinion?
In my opinion, it's partial recognition because again, doing speaking engagements is not something that just comes to you. These are companies, platforms that are reaching out to you because you've been recognized by other platforms or you've been recognized by your peers or your clients. So part of it is really reputation building. To an extent, of course, I'm sure it drives traffic, but at this point, it's more to make sure that we're well rounded, to make sure that we're covering all of our bases, and that you're an authority figure in your respective field. So speaking engagements for the sake of speaking engagements are great. It gives you, number one, as always, an opportunity to contribute to the community, to give not just your feedback, but your expertise and your opinion. So people who are watching and are actually paying attention can take notice of what they should or should not be doing if situation turns up in their life. On the other hand, you're also building brand recognition. Because when people see that you're on constant speaking engagements or at least consistent speaking engagements, they understand you've been recognized by the public, that you've been recognized by other platforms. And that doesn't just happen because you can't buy speaking engagements. Most of your TV, particularly interviews, they're contacting you. They're reaching out to you because you have authority in your field and they want you to comment or they want you to speak or give your opinion on a particular topic. So it's a great way for you to build recognition.
I think that there's a tendency to not want to spend on marketing for a lot of people. Sometimes it's tough to track that ROI. Sometimes you just don't see the payoff from it quickly. Do you run into people that are hesitant to spend on marketing? And if so, do you generally try to talk them into putting some money towards it?
I run into people daily that don't like spending on marketing. And look, for some people that works. That's totally fine. I have plenty of colleagues and friends of mine that have literally built 7, 8-figure businesses just on referrals.
Mm-hmm.
But now that they're there, they're not necessarily just operating on referrals. Now they're expanding. They're going into different arenas and they're going into different types of services and products that they're producing. So now they're expanding. A lot of people are hesitant because you're right. It's hard to track that ROI. Your metrics are so important. And going into the world of marketing and advertising without understanding how to track your metrics, how to understand your cost per acquisition, how to understand your return on investment, tracking what's actually coming from your ad spend and your dollar spend, that is the most important part. Otherwise, it really is just spaghetti method. You're just spending money and hoping that what came back from it profited, not that it just broke even, but you actually made some money. And to me, that's negligent. You're putting all this money out there, but you're not tracking your returns. So as much as I understand someone that is relying on referrals, I also understand the hesitation. Because if you're not doing it right, it really just hope for the best. And we don't want that either. So you have to find that happy medium where maybe you're not the best marketer, advertiser, and that's totally fine. Hire a professional, hire a consultant, someone that can actually make sure that your metrics are right, your cost per acquisition makes sense, your return on investment makes sense. If you want to go the marketing and advertising route, that's the best piece of advice that I've ever gotten, and that's the best piece of advice that I can give our listeners.
I've heard different people with different opinions on the whole "how did you hear about us" idea, whether saying it or putting it on an intake or something like that. Do you think is it cheesy? Is it fine? What do you think?
My opinion always is it's a necessary tool. Some people are hesitant because you get generic answers,
Yeah.
but you're still getting feedback. You're still understanding what's working and what's not. For somebody that's doing a lot of marketing and advertising, for a client to call you and say, well, I found you on TV, or I found you on the radio, or on the internet, it doesn't really give us much, but it gives you the direction. So if you're doing multiple different streams of radio advertising, If someone's coming to you and telling you, well, I heard you on the radio, at least that tells you that one of your streams is working. Same goes for television. Same goes for online marketing or advertising. So it's never going to be a perfect system, but it'll get you that much closer to understanding what's working, what's not working, and giving you more understanding on your metrics. That if it's coming from the internet, that something on your internet advertising is actually working. Now, you have ways to track down beyond just how did you hear about us. We have phone numbers, you have email addresses, you have names, you have metadata. So it shows you where these people are coming from. So part of it comes from the how did you hear about us. Part of it really is your systems in place to track your performance. How are you using that feedback? How are you using their responses? And it should be to confirm more than just their statement of how I heard about you. It's to fine tune what specific medium did they come from? What specific campaign is working and did they actually come in through? They're not going to give you more than they need to give you. But that takes your systems that you have in place to confirm what's working and what's not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's the easiest way, right? Like you don't have to look at any back, any back end systems or anything like that. It's just right there in front of you. How did you hear about us? And you can make that correlation. Now, obviously, everyone loves organic growth. That's what we all aim for. It takes time, it takes patience, it takes diligence. At what point is paid advertising a good option in your mind?
When you have the money to do it,
Okay.
that's the reality. Or organic growth is great, and paid advertising is extremely expensive,
It
especially
is.
in today's world. I mean,
I
let's
bet
be
especially for what you do too.
That's true,
Yeah.
and it also depends on what you're doing. And look, let's be frank here. Most online advertising has been monopolized by one company. So it's become extremely expensive because they know they can push the envelope. They know they can charge more because there are so many businesses that exclusively rely on online advertising. They know they can continue to increase their prices. So it's a dangerous game. On the one hand, of course, we want organic growth. Organic growth is cheaper. It's in some cases free with no acquisition costs. But when we get to a certain level, unless you're constantly working on your referral network, which is very important, but if you don't have the time to do it, the business that you're drumming up organically or the business that you're drumming up from your referral sources, if you're in the world of expansion and you're looking to grow, then at that point, when you have the budget for it and understanding that it may work, it may not. So pick a number that you're not hurt by, that you're able to spend. And even if you lose it, that's okay. We've
Mhm.
tried, it didn't work. We move on to something else. Just don't go to the place where you're spending your last dollar hoping that you get your, 4x or 10x or whatever multiplier works for you. That's a dangerous place to be. Online advertising, first of all, make sure it's ethical and compliant more than anything else, especially in our world. Second, make sure that you're financially prepared. It's something that you can turn on and off, but it's also a place where you can lose a lot of money very fast.
Yeah.
So be prepared that it may work, it may not work, and that's okay. And that's the state of mind that we have to go into it with, especially if you're in that trial and error phase. The problem is you're dealing with all of these professionals that claim to be professionals. Unfortunately, some of them are not. They may not necessarily optimize your campaign, and
Mhm.
maybe you lose some money in the process. So let's make sure it's a amount that you're okay with parting ways with, so that tomorrow you can restart. And maybe this campaign didn't work for you. That doesn't mean tomorrow's won't. You'll just have to do some fine tuning. So make sure it's a number that you're okay losing just as easily as you are able to make it back.
Yeah, you brought up a good point too. There's a lot of people who claim to like be able to get you this X growth, blah, blah, blah. They can optimize your campaigns and all that. So either make sure you have a really good, reputable person working with you, or learn how to do it yourself. Learn the keywords, learn how to do all that stuff, which is difficult, but it's not impossible either.
Look, when you're getting into this world, you should be able to understand at least the fundamentals, keywords and SEO and pay-per-click if you're going in the world of marketing and advertising, because a lot of these professionals are not professional. So if you're going in blind, just hoping that they're doing great work, you're doing yourself a disservice. So at least take the time to understand what they're doing fundamentally. I'm no expert in marketing and advertising. I can tell you that I know enough to know what I'm doing, but of course, it's not my only realm. So know enough to be dangerous, but protect yourself by the same token, so that when you're looking at a proposal or you're going through your monthly review of your campaign, that you're not just hoping that they're telling you the truth or hoping what they're saying makes sense, but you can actually understand whether they're being honest and it's working or not working, or maybe you have to change gears or change the company or the advisor or marketing agency that you're working with, because what they're doing is just wrong.
Well, that's very, very good advice as it relates to paid advertising, because that can definitely sneak up on some people. All right, well, that wraps up today's episode of Obsessed with Success. If you're ready to stop relying on referrals and start building a marketing system that works while you sleep, visit morganlegalny.com to learn more. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, leave us a review. Russell is all over social media. It's at morganlegalny. That's correct, right, Russell?
That's right, Kevin.
That's right. At Morgan Legal NY. You can find them all over the place. Lots of great stuff out there. Lots of great stuff coming this way too. So don't forget to subscribe, share with your friends. Russell, always great to see you. Thanks so much for all the advice.
Kevin, great to see you as always. Till next time on Obsessed with Success.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.